Let's take a moment and go back and look at a simpler item, our cylinder from the first test in Chapter 1. Now, after completing the exercises in the last few chapters, you probably think you know everything about PuppetMaster. Well, it's time to sit down and take a closer look. As we know before, all preparation for PuppetMaster starts in the modeler. So we're going to head into our modeler, which is Wings 3D. Go to File, and we're going to import our OBJ file that's in Messiah, cylinder_all. Let's take a minute and list all the things we know about PuppetMaster. We know that PuppetMaster needs a cluster, which in this case would be PM_cylinder_all. If we add this cluster to a PuppetMaster effect, we know that it has 100% control over our cylinder because the control points on cylinder all overlap the control points on our main model. So they get 100% control. They stick to the cluster. We also know, if we select by face here, hide our original model so we just have our PM cylinder, we know that if we extract region, have another cluster that's sitting on top of our cylinder all cluster, that the control points overlapping the main model will share half and half between these two clusters. Here's where it starts to get interesting. Let's rename this one PM cylinder all level 1. Let's grab level 1 and we're going to duplicate that, hide everything but level 1. Select all the faces on the top, delete that, press the spacebar to deselect all the faces, select all the faces on the bottom, so all we have is a disk. Let's rename this one to level 2. So here's what else we know. If we have cylinder all in level 1, the overlapping control points on either of those, if we have a third cluster that has sharing control points between the two, the control points on the main model will divide by 3, and they'll get a third of the weighting between all of these clusters that they share. Now if we select these two levels and export that as one model, we get some interesting effects. Let's export this one as PM_cylinder weighted. Let's highlight cylinder all, export selected as PM_cylinder all, and head back into Messiah. We'll go to File. We're going to load our PM cylinder all and our weighted into the file. Grab cylinder all and do the same thing we did in the first test. Go down to PuppetMaster, add that effect to the cylinder, go to the Cluster Create tab. We're going to convert our cylinder weighted to a cluster and our cylinder all to a cluster. Now we have two models that are sitting inside one model file. Here's what happens. We grab our cylinder weighted and move it along X. See how interesting that makes it? So we have a way of defining a fall-off weighting by simply duplicating the faces and letting them lay on top of each other on the second cluster. This cluster is very predictable, it's very fast, and it's only slightly more work than setting up the clusters inside your modeler.